There's two rear view mirrors. Like, what the heck?
If you
all I can think of is this is how my wife imagines me when I tell her I'm going to El Paso for a 2-day trip.
My wife would be rolling on the ground.
Catch Me If You Can is such a classic movie, and I thought, what a better person to bring in and help review and react to this movie than Captain Steve. Captain Steve, how are you?
Good. How are you, Gary?
I'm doing fantastic. I hope you're doing well in retirement. But I was hoping you could give us some insight because I didn't fly pre 9/11, and I really want to know if these glory days is like this. So can you help us out?
Well, I love that movie. I was we were just talking off camera, and 2 weeks ago I was on a trip cross country on an airplane, and I'm scrolling through the movie options, and Catch Me If You Can was there, and I got all excited, so I couldn't grab it fast enough. I watched the whole movie again. I probably watched it 10 times over the years. It's vintage Tom Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio, and apparently that's the way it was back in the days. Like I came to the airlines in the early 90s, right? So in the early 90s, it was the jump seat was much more a tight thing than it was years before that. It used to be you could just walk into the airport. You didn't even have security back in the 60s and 70s, and you could walk right up to the airplane. All you had to do is buy a uniform like the Frank Abagnale did, and walk on and memorize a couple of lines about airplanes, and you sold yourself. And so sweet talk the agent at the gate, and you're on the airplane. Well, that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, definitely not. All right, well, let's go ahead. I'm going to pull up and share my screen, and let's go ahead and react to a couple clips here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, first question, was it really slow motion like that? Do you think you got out and you had a 3-point lighting when you got out of the cab? Was it that glamorous?
Well, I think, he's looking at one of the things that I don't think a lot of us as pilots understand is a lot of people still really look up to this occupation. They have a lot of respect associated with it. And like, here's a young guy on the curb. He's looking at it going, wow, that looks like $1 million right now in front of me. And I wish my life was like that, Well, it's not as easy as wishing it, but yeah, there's a lot of romance, I suppose.
Yeah, well, it gets even more. Let's watch. Let's keep watching.
Because they just keep coming.
Pleasure to have you back, Captain Carlson.
What do you think, Angelo? The tomatoes are ripe this afternoon. Now we'll have it here.
Can I have your autograph?
You betcha.
Can I have your autograph?
You gonna be a pilot? All right, then. Here you go. Work hard in school.
I mean, autographs was a thing. Do you think that was a thing in the 60s?
I don't know. That's hard to say. I do now get people that come up to me and go, "Are you Captain Steve?" The first thing is they have that look on their face like, "Do you owe me $10 or are you Captain Steve?" And I'm like, "No, I'm Captain Steve." And you know what? I'm going to go with it. Probably was a thing. What I want to point out is the hapless first officer, Gary. He's carrying the bags for the captain. He's at the end of the line. He's the last guy out of the cab. Come on. It's not like that anymore. But I think maybe back in the 60s, it was kind of like that. Like the captain was like, the king, and the first officer was the guy that carried his bags. I'm very, very glad it's not like that anymore.
Well, my question is, where's the flight engineer? But at least they got 4 stripes and 3 stripes. I mean, there was no planes flying around there with 2 pilots at that time, right?
No, I think virtually every airplane had an engineer on it. And a lot of them, like back in the early days of the 707 coming across the North Atlantic, there were 5 people in the cockpit. There was a captain, there was a first officer, there was a flight engineer, there was a radioman, and there was a navigator. 5 people up there. Holy moly.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Fun fact, I had a guy at the regional airline. He would, he was a regional captain and he was a lifer there, and he would print pictures out and hand out autographed pictures to himself. So, maybe there's a market for it that I don't know about it. Even funner fact, he told me up here, you can call me Tim, but out there it's captain. So you had to refer to him as captain out there. So
no, I get that. It's the same as the military, right?
Yeah. All right, let's keep watching. Now, fun fact about this Pan Am building, I think that was actually the Pan Am building in right there about Grand Central Station.
Pan Am, may I help you?
Hello, I'm calling about a uniform.
Hold for purchasing.
Thank you.
Purchasing.
I'm a co-pilot based out of San Francisco. I flew a flight into New York last night, but the problem is I'm headed out to Paris in 3 hours.
Copy
can we help you?
I sent my uniform to be cleaned through the hotel, and I guess I must have lost it.
So, question for you, Steve: have you ever lost a uniform out on work?
No, I never lost a uniform. But let's assume back in the days of sending your stuff out to be dry cleaned, that you could lose it. There's layovers that we have. Like you go over to Doha, and if you just put your uniform outside the door on a hanger, they will take it and dry clean it for you and bring it back before your next trip. And everybody did that because it was free dry cleaning. But could it disappear? Sure. This is plausible to me, but lose it? No, you don't lose it. You could have sent it out for cleaning and it didn't come back, kind of thing.
Right. Okay.
Happens all the time. Go down to the Well-Built Uniform Company at 9th and Broadway. They are uniform supplier. I'll tell Mr. Rosen you're coming.
You look too young to be a pilot.
I'm a co-pilot.
Do you know when the term officially changed from co-pilot to first officer? Are you aware? I don't know. Actually, I didn't look that up.
Oh, I'm thinking that's more of a kind of like a 1980s thing.
80s.
It's probably about the same time that stewardess changed to flight attendant.
Do you know why that changed, or what was the point of that behind that? I
think it's probably an outcropping of crew resource management. Kind of the idea that there's a funny letter. I read it short on my channel a while ago about a letter sent from it was American Airlines back in the 1930s about the new position that they had created at the airline called the co-pilot, and it's the most derogatory letter about you're not worthy. The captain is king, all that kind of stuff. That obviously was the terminology back in the 30s and 40s. I would think, pilot to co-pilot. You think about your Hollywood movies, but sometime after that, it changed to first officer, and you got a second officer, flight engineer in the cockpit. Like I said, on those 707s, you had 5 different people, so everybody had to kind of have a title. People still to this day think, because they'll ask you, they go, "But are you the pilot?" Do you get that, Gary? They go, "But are you the pilot?" And what they mean is, "Are you the captain?" It's still lingering over from those early days that the pilot was the captain and the co-pilot was some administrative assistant that was there to do whatever the captain or the pilot said to do. And what people don't get is that we are equally qualified on the airplane. It's just the buck has to stop someplace, right? So that's what the captain position is.
That's so true. And speaking of equally qualified, I got to let my wife do our ad real quick, and we'll be right back.
I used to deal with SIM cards and roaming plans almost every trip until I started using Holofly plans. It's one eSIM that works in over 160 countries. You install it one time, and after that, your phone stays connected wherever you go. There's no configuration or eSIM reinstallation required. What's different now is that Holofly isn't just for single trips anymore. They have monthly and yearly plans. There's a 25 gig plan if you just need it for reliable data for work, maps, and calls, or you can pick an unlimited plan. They also have an always-on feature, which is designed to ensure you never lose your connection. Both renew automatically, and you can cancel at any time. I've now used it across multiple countries. The second I land, my phone just works. You can also receive 1 gigabyte automatically every month at no additional cost, and it works in over 70 countries. So if you're a frequent traveler, remote worker, or anyone who just loves bouncing between countries, Holofly plans just makes life easier. It's one eSIM, one plan, and you stay connected pretty much anywhere. Check out Holofly plans by clicking the link below to get 10% off for 12 months. Thank you to Holofly for sponsoring today's video.
Thanks. All right, let's keep going. No, thanks for that.
What airports does Pan Am fly to? What does a pilot make in the air, and who tells them where they're going to fly to?
Whoa, slow down. Just take them one at a time.
All right. What does it mean when one pilot says to another pilot, what kind of equipment are you on?
I just want to know what kind of aircraft you're flying. Is it a DC-8, 707, Constellation?
So a fun fact about this, I read this book. I don't know if you ever read his book, Steve, but the book is actually better than the movie, in my opinion, by about 5 times. And he said that he would walk around the airport. Obviously the movie had to cut out a lot of things, but he'd walk around the airport in his uniform, and a pilot came up to him and said, casually asked him, what kind of equipment you on? And he panicked and didn't know what to say and said General Electric. And they said the guy just looked at him. He said he looked at him kind of weird and walked off. And so now this guy thinks I fly a washing machine or something.
Well, every pilot has to have 2 things with him at all times. One is his airline personnel badge, looks just like this one here from Pan Am. The other one is their FAA license, and that looks just like this.
did you notice that he didn't talk about the medical? And I looked it up and I thought about it. I said, when are pilots required to have a medical? And apparently that's since 1927 they started doing AMEs. So I was actually surprised. I thought that would have been more of a 50s or 60s things.
Yeah, I am too. I don't know the history behind that, or if you had to present your medical. I know now you do. If you're going to sit in somebody else's jump seat, they're going to ask you for your license and your medical. It's a double verification. But I think back then it was much. They never asked the guy for his license. They see his ID in the uniform, and it's like, yeah, good old boy system. Come on in.
Yeah.
Have a seat.
While you're on that topic, what's some of the stories I hear, because I started flying in 2007. So that was only about 6 years after the quote unquote glory days ended. But I'd hear these stories about, the plane was full. They just put standby passengers in the bathroom and take off. I mean, did you hear this kind of stuff I heard it was a totally different world back then.
Well, I've heard rumors of stuff like that. I think that getting into the 70s, honestly, there wasn't really security at a lot of airports until the early 1970s. And I remember when 9/11 happened and they were talking about instituting the armed airline pilot program, the FFDO program. And they did an interview with some guys back in the 60s that just brought a firearm with them on the airplane. A captain, he said, I always had a revolver in my kit bag with me because there was no security to go through and there was no restrictions that you couldn't. He just carried it with him for security. Well, those days are long gone for sure,
Right. Yeah. I remember, what's funny is a fun fact is this scene coming up in a little bit is filmed at Ontario Airport. They're trying to do Miami. And that's where, I flew the Airbus out of the Ontario a lot there as a co-terminal. But as a kid, I was going through security there once. And I remember somebody walked through, set off the metal detector. This is the 90s. And the lady says, come back. I got to wave you down. And he shakes his pants and says, no, it's my change, and walks off. And she just lets him walk off. And I'm like, and I vividly remember that. And I remember how just different it was.
Why so nervous?
So you notice this is the only mistake I've noticed so far is that he's got 2 stripes on this jacket, unless they magically added a third. And then in the next scene, he's got 3 stripes.
Pan Am's got lots of uniforms. It's going to be $164.
Great. I'll write you a check.
Sorry, no.
I'd have to do that math on inflation, but $164 for a uniform, is that would be like $1,500 compared to today? That's a lot, right?
Yeah, it seems kind of a high price for back in the day. And I think the conversation he just had with the tailor was, I'm a co-pilot, which he's saying to him, I'm a 3-striper. So, that explains how the 3rd stripe came about.
Okay. Yeah, good catch.
You'll have to fill in your employee ID number, and then I'll bill Pan Am. I'll take it out in your next paycheck.
Even better.
A sad note I have to add, I used to get told all the time I look too young to be a pilot, and those days have long passed. So I miss those days.
Ditto.
Dear Dad, you always told me that an honest man has nothing to fear, so I'm trying my best not to be afraid. I'm sorry I ran away, but you don't have to worry. I'm gonna get it all back now, Daddy. I promise. I'm gonna get it all back.
Are you a real life pilot?
I sure am, little lady. What's your name?
Celine.
Celine, it's a pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you too.
Yeah, I think it really hypes up the glory days to show. I remember pilots talking about it and just talking about the insane stories of the power. I don't know if you've heard this too, but I had a U.S. air captain once tell me he pushed back. The ramper was giving him lip, and he said something. And he made a call and got the ramper fired, on the spot. And I've just, somebody else made a good point. They said in the 60s we were just below astronauts, and right now we're just above truck drivers. So I don't know how accurate that is. But
yeah, I like that. I was talking to a guy who was an Egyptian FO, first officer I was flying with, and he's got co-citizenship. And he said when he goes back to Egypt, he said the pilots over there get treated like demigods. He said, for instance, I can speed with impunity. He said, if I ever get pulled over, and he said, I've been pulled over several times. He said, I just simply tell them I'm a pilot, and I pull out my airline ID and show it to them, and they're like, oh. Okay, no problem. I wish you'd told me that first of all. Go along, sir. And he says, I've never gotten a ticket because they revere their pilots over there, but not so much here.
I've noticed that too. Going to other countries, especially like Latin America, Mexico, other places where you just the uniform, you get treated with such high standards. All right, we'll continue on. So tell me if I'm wrong. This is the old TWA terminal, which is now a hotel, right?
Yep, I've stayed in that hotel a few times. And if you're ever in New York at JFK, even if you don't want to, you have to go stay at the TWA hotel. It's really cool on the inside. Yeah, it's all retro.
Funny. I was scheduled to stay there with our company, and then I got, they canceled or changed it, and I missed my opportunity. But I was looking forward to that. But maybe if I get some JFK trips, I might be up there.
They filmed this. Before they redid the TWA hotel.
Yeah,
and so it was just left to rot, and there's like the ceiling was leaking every place, and so they cleaned it up for this movie. But this is before they redid it into a hotel. But now it's really spectacular.
That's such a cool fact.
Hello. Hi. Are you deadheading?
So he's supposed to be Pan Am, and he's coming up to TWA, and she asked, "Are you my deadhead?" Is that a thing where you deadhead from a different airline?
No, I think they just missed that.
Yeah. Okay.
Hi. Are you deadheading?
What?
Are you my deadhead to Miami?
Do you want to? I don't know if you've explained that much, but we want to explain to people what a deadhead is, because people ask me that all the time.
Yeah, so deadhead is a crew member that is going to cover a trip that is on the schedule. In other words, a jump seater might just be commuting to work to get to start their sequence, but a deadheader it's built into your sequence that you're going to fly, let's say, to St. Louis. Then you're going to deadhead to Los Angeles and then pick up your trip from Los Angeles back to New York, kind of thing. That would be a deadhead.
Yeah, good explanation.
Yes. Yeah, I'm your deadhead. Here you go.
You're a little late, but the jump seat is open.
It's been a while since I've done this. Which one's the jump seat again?
He was actually asking what the jump seat was.
Right, and it's so out of character that she thinks it's just funny. He's having her on, right? And
right.
He's trying to gather information here, as he's going on the roll.
What's funny is my dad's not a pilot, but he's kind of like an aviation enthusiast, and he always asks me, if hypothetically, if I was to take your badge and get up in the jump seat, how many questions would I have to know before a captain would figure me out that I'm not actually a pilot? And I thought about it. I was like, that's a good question. It depends on how much the captain pries and starts asking. If he just looks and says that's it, and he's not very fun. But if he starts asking you questions, where'd you start flying there? I go, I don't know. It's a good question.
Frank, Captain Oliver, John Larkin, the co-pilot, Fred Tully, flight engineer.
Frank Taylor, Pan Am. Thanks for giving me a lift, boys.
Go ahead and take a seat, Frank. We're about to push. What kind of equipment you on? DC-8?
707.
You turning around on the red eye?
I'm jumping puddles for the next few months, trying to earn my keep running leapfrogs for the weak and weary.
No shame in that. We all did it.
So I don't know. That's a funny line, but the jumping puddles. I can't tell what they're even flying right there. I have no idea, but
yeah, it's got an engineer on it. It could be a 727 or I don't know. They didn't DC-10s didn't really fly them though.
I wonder if that's what so the 707s, they didn't have regional jets back then. So I wonder if that's like the 707s kind of flew the shorter stuff. It sounds like, at least from the movie standpoint. Is this what you're talking about? The jump seats, were they smaller like this, no shoulder harnesses and things like that?
Yeah, I think the old ones were on some of those older airplanes. They just kind of zipped out of a pocket like that.
V1, rotate.
Fun fact, my airline, we didn't call V2. We never called it, at least at my first airline. And so one time I was telling all these people, that's not true. You don't call V2. And then I was on jump seat on Delta or somebody and they called V2. And I was like, wait a minute. I guess you can call V2.
Yeah, we used to call V2 in the military. And what I'm interested in is on the dashboard on this, there's two rear view mirrors.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what the heck is that? What the heck is that?
Yeah, I don't know. That is weird. Is that is it like a alignment something? Or, there's, they used to have those, the CRJ has those little balls that you align yourself with. I don't know if it, something to do with that. But yeah, it looks like he has mirrors. That'd be an interesting fact. We'll see if anybody in the comments can look that up.
I'm assuming that was a thing on whatever airplane they're on, but I don't recognize the aircraft and why they would have that there.
Yeah.
But if anybody knows, light up the comments because.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess they went pretty quick from 80 knots to V1.
Oh, yeah.
V1, rotate. V2, positive right. Gear up.
Classic.
the end of the day, I'll be choosing 8 young ladies to be a part of Pan Am.
So I wonder if that was an actual thing. Would they do things like that, or was it? I mean, because this is something he actually did, and it's insane to me that he was able to pull this off.
Yeah, I think it was, becoming a stewardess at an airline back in the 60s was like the most glamorous thing on the planet, right? And so, yeah, it was the coolest job going.
I'm surprised that a lot of people don't even know that they had like weight requirements. You have to weigh in and keep a certain thing before, I think there was like 27, you had to retire. You couldn't be married. There's like all these pretty wild how much that's changed.
Stewardess flight crew program. Now, these 8 young ladies will accompany me on a 2-month public relations tour through Europe. They will discover firsthand what it takes to be a Pan American stewardess.
What qualifies me to be a future stewardess?
Well, I think that I'm really friendly and I can really help out and make people feel welcome on the plane. And
we'll be traveling at 6,000 miles per hour at an altitude of 300 feet.
I think that's how those flat earthers talk to me. That's how it sounds to me. We'll be traveling at 6,000 miles an hour at 300 feet.
You're perfect for this job. You're hired.
All my bags are packed. I'm ready to go.
Eileen Anderson.
Let's fly away. If you...
All I can think of is this is how my wife imagines me when I tell her I'm going to El Paso for a 2-day trip. I think this is what she sees.
Yeah, you know what, Gary? I don't think your wife imagines that at all. My wife she'd be rolling on the ground looking at this going, there's no way that all these beautiful women are going to be arm in arm with you, dude.
I know, it's a joke, but I mean, the fact that she thinks, she's always, I don't know. Anyways, exactly. It's funny. It's not as glamorous, when you're not there and you don't know what it's like. I feel like this is how people imagine it sometimes.
Yes, they do.
You can use some exotic booze. There's a bar in Far Bum.
So yeah, as we talked about, fun fact, that's the old Ontario airport. So it's like the place I flew out of a lot as a kid. Fun place.
Come fly with me. Let's fly away.
So I never got this part of the movie, but how would you even, if you're looking for a pilot, I don't think just because you have 8 flight attendants in front of you is going to, stop it. But, who knows?
Oh, look. That's LaGuardia right there. Runway 44.
Runway 44. Would you like to explain, Steve, why that's incorrect?
Oh, because there's only 360 degrees on a compass. 44 would be, be a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
Frank.
I mean, maybe they didn't have those easy unlocks back then where you could lock it.
Yeah, they did have the easy unlocks back then. So, but this is, it's a movie. It's got to be dramatic, right? You can't just slide the thing. And if you slide the thing, everybody on the planet will know that you can slide the thing and get into the bathroom. So
true. That's good. They didn't give that away.
We just gave it away.
You know what's crazy to me? That doesn't look like AI. And I don't think they had AI back then in 2002. So I'm surprised. It looks like somebody actually was riding the wheel well and jumped off. I want to know who signed off on that.
Yeah.
But in the book, Frank Abagnale Jr. claims that he went through the bathroom and escaped that way. I don't know how accurate that is, but I don't know. I'm not sure if you have any thoughts.
Yeah, if it's, nobody's contesting that he did do it. I don't know how, but I don't want to try either.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the end of the movie. He gets there, runs off, or at least the pilot scene. Captain Steve, what would you rate Catch Me If You Can?
Well, as far as accuracy for the flying parts of it, it's about a 5. Although it's all back in the day, right?
Right.
And so I think the whole premise of the movie was this guy's a con man. He's trying to get over on people. And the more outrageous the con, the more likely it is for you not to question it, right? Just
Right.
way over the top. You know,
Right.
all the flight attendants, you know, the question is, where did he get all the flight attendant uniforms? Did he go out and have them, you know, like he did, go to the tailor, get them made?
Right.
Just to walk through the airport to avoid the authorities, that it's all kind of elaborate, but, you know, apparently he did do all that stuff, which is the shocker about it. This is based on a true story. It's hyped up a little bit because it's got to be made movie presentable. But
Right.
for the most part, everything that they said he did in the movie, he did. And which is, it's shocking to me, you know. Now, the question I've got is, you know, what do you think, Gary? Could this happen again? Could somebody sneak onto the jump seat and you know, basically pretend to be a pilot, but not really be one?
Well, fun fact, there was some guy just got busted in Mexico. He's a retired, or he quit as a Canadian flight attendant, and somehow he got the credentials, and they called him the modern day Catch Me If You Can. So most recently, this was like 3 weeks ago, he got busted. So apparently this is still happening, but I think it's so hard to do that today.
Yeah, it is. I can't. So I retired, 4 months ago? I can't get on the jump seat.
Yeah.
You think of all the people that they let on a jump seat, a retired commercial pilot? Nope. It's the day I turned 65, done. Right?
You know, if you're a sim instructor and you go join the sim, that you can get jump seat privileges back. So
right, yeah.
I'm sure that's you'd love to look forward to that.
Not doing it.
Well, Steve, I appreciate you joining us. Thanks again, and really appreciate your time. Until next time, we'll see you soon.
Hey, Gary, thanks.